What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Combat Corporation, your source of combat sports. I'm your host, Adam the Postmaster Tomorrow, and today I have a gear review on the Playerz Boxing Power MMA Sparring Gloves. Alright folks, as always, I'm incredibly excited to bring you yet another gear review, as today we have the Power MMA Sparring Gloves by Playerz Boxing. I'm really excited to do this review because if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that I unboxed a bunch of stuff by Playerz Boxing about 3.5 to 4 months ago now. I got 2 pairs of MMA sparring gloves. These included 2 pairs of shin guards, and yes, shin guard reviews are coming to the channel very soon, I promise. And then on top of it, I got 2 pairs of boxing gloves and a pair of hook and loop converters, which I think is awesome. But if I'm honest, I wanted to start with my favorite piece of equipment that I got from Playerz Boxing, and not to give the whole review away, but I've absolutely loved using these MMA sparring gloves. I think the overall design and quality of the gloves has been awesome. And again, not to give it away, but these have already cracked my top 5 favorite MMA gloves I've ever used. They're awesome. I've loved using them. I'm excited to do the review, and I've had so many different people comment and say, where are the Playerz reviews? There's actually, I had to laugh at this one, my wife did too. There's a picture of my wife and my dogs, and it had nothing to do with combat sports at all, and someone commented, where are the Playerz reviews? And I understand that this is a very highly requested brand I've had on the channel for a little over a year and a half is when people started asking me about Playerz. I think Playerz started in 2021 or 2, if I'm remembering correctly, and they're a bigger brand out of the UK with a lot of European guys that are using them, and on top of it, there are 2 people that come to mind, 2 big names in the UFC with the UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall and Ian Machado Gary, I think, who's ranked number 5 in the welterweight division right now of the UFC, maybe higher, maybe lower. But I think it's really awesome that you have a lot of people that have been using big name brands that are switching over to Playerz Boxing, and with these gloves, I can definitely see why. Now, cool thing about Playerz Boxing, guys, is I got to talk to the owner. I initially always have a list of brands I need to get to eventually. Sometimes the money, it's just I don't have the money to buy it, or the extra money to say, I'll word it that way. And sometimes I just have other things I need to review. But I got lucky in that James, the owner of Playerz Boxing, reached out to me around the time I was looking into buying a bunch of stuff by Playerz Boxing. And he told me that he was going to send me a whole bunch of stuff to test. Now, that was around the time of my knee injury. So I've had these gloves for a while. And when I first got them, I could only do like light training. Now that my knee's good, I'm actually only about 2.5 weeks away from being completely cleared to fight again, actually. But I've been training hard for the last 3.5 months, like normal, since I got cleared to do that. And I put a lot of effort and time in with these gloves. Like I always tell you, fighter tested gear reviews. That's my whole goal. And I told James that, and around the later end of December, he sent me the stuff to use. So I was really lucky that I was able to try these out. Now, cool thing about James, again, is that not only is he a guy that's competed in combat sports between boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, MMA, and he trains all the time, but James also owns Fight Equipment UK, and he's been operating that, I believe, for about 20 years now. Now, Fight Equipment UK is actually a retailer based out of, I want to say, an hour outside of Liverpool in the United Kingdom, and I've actually ordered from them for years. I've ordered Venom products, Rival products. I just ordered a pair of Sandy gloves from them because I want to do more Muay Thai reviews. And a lot of times I order from them, it's because there are places in the United States that they're either out of stock or whatever it might be. So I need to kind of go outside of the pond, and I've always ordered from, or the other side of the pond. So I always ordered from Fight Equipment UK. So I thought it was funny that the owner reached out to me. Now, I'm going to tell you why that's awesome. When you have people that train and stuff and they make gear, it's always good because they know what's going to work. But then you have a guy that's dealt with every major professional product out there, again, from Rival, Everlast, Venom, Ringside, Sandy, Fairtex, anything you can think of. He's done it with gloves, mouth guards, headgear, anything you can think of, right? and he knows what works for you. This works for your style. This works for your body type. This wouldn't work for you. That's awesome. So when he made Playerz Boxing, his whole goal was to make really good competitive gear to the rest of the market, but he's also humble enough to know, and he said this word for word, I know it's not going to work for everybody, but my goal is that it will work on a functional level, which is absolutely awesome. And for me, again, when you have guys like Tom Aspinall, Ian Machado, Gary changing from what they've been using for a while over to these, again, I can see why. They've become one of my favorites. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the actual review, talking about the exact model that I got for you today. I have them in the black and gold coloration, and I got them in the XL size. You can get them in 4 different sizes: small, medium, large, and extra large. Again, I have XL. That's the same size that Tom Aspinall uses. I imagine he has bigger hands than I do. Give you a size idea, I got very fat palms. My hands are wide, and my ring size is about 14. But I do have smaller fingers as far as length goes. I know Tom has bigger hands than I do, I'm sure. But there is a really nice convenient sizing chart. You know, it has you measure from your palm all the way up to your fingers and then wrap around. And some people don't like that sizing idea, but I do. It does work very well, I find, when you're just looking for a rough idea. And I also like that there's 4 sizes. A lot of MMA gloves will go the small size medium, L/XL mark. I don't like that, because what if you have smaller hands and it fits more like a medium? So you have 4 really good sizes to pick from: small, medium, large, extra large, and that's awesome. I don't think you need anything bigger than the extra large here. And again, you got 2 different colors you can get. I got the dark royal, I call it, which is black and gold. It's one of my favorite colorways. You can also get them in white and gold, which I find is the color that Tom Aspinall uses a lot. Ian Machado Gary more or less uses the black and gold. But again, your reference, black and gold coloration, and the XL size is what I have. Now, when we go into the actual look of the glove, like I said, that black and gold is always a really nice color, and it matches, and it's really good for display as well. And you can see here that on the back you have that really nice midnight black, but it still reflects the light really well. It doesn't eat the light, which is cool. So again, good for display purposes if you're ever into that. And then on top of it, you can see that we have those nice grooves going in with that microfiber, and that's really cool. So it gives it that nice classic leather look. I also like that the logo here, never really asked James what the crown is about. I have to assume because it's a UK brand, it's paying homage to the crown a little bit. Who knows? But you can see we got the spikes of the crown, and they go down in sequential order there. You can also see it kind of has more of that 3D effect, like that band pops out because you have that space in between the headband right there. When you turn it, it kind of looks like it pops out that way. Makes the stars pop out too. And you got the big star in the center and the 2 stars on the side. And I think that's a nice little touch of the crown. And that's in gold. And you can see down here we also have more of the black. And then when we look in that crease in the center, you can see the stitching, and that is black stitching until you come over to the front of the glove where that gold starts to pop out. The finger guards are all gold, but all the piping of the glove itself is black. You can see the piping of the glove up here by the fingertips, and the top of the hand is also black. And you can see that the finger guards are all black too. The inside of the finger guard for the thumb, that is gold, that has black there. And then we come over here, you can see we have gold stitching in with the rest of the gold vinyl that's going throughout there. And then the interior lining is really cool because it is a gold color. It's going for that gold color, but it has more of that rich yellow. And I don't really know what the designs are supposed to be. It looks like a type of grid. And it, honestly, for me, because I think I have a caveman brain, looks like the inside of a citrus fruit. Kind of looks like the inside of a yellow, of a lemon. When you cut that open. And then if you go away, kind of has more of that kaleidoscope feature. And you can kind of see, at least for my eyes, it kind of moves on you. And then you come back, it looks even more. And now it looks kind of uniform. Almost look like jungle vines to my eyes. Like I said, I'm a caveman. I don't know. But that's basically what we have going on here. So the interior lining is really cool. You got the black and yellow, gold coloration going throughout there. Now, on this glove, though, I will say that there is no XL marking. I can't remember if there was. I'd have to go back and look. But on the right glove, it says XL, just to prove to you that I got the XL size, and it has the crown right there. So on the right glove, it has that. I don't know if that's uniform, but then the rest of the glove, we go over to the wrist strap. You can see the wrist strap itself is all gold, but it says Playerz Boxing right here. And then when we open the wrist strap, the other side of it is black. The Velcro is black itself. And then again, just to prove to you guys that it is indeed an XL size, there's a tag on the inside if you needed confirmation. And there it is. So that's the overall look of the glove, but now we're going to go into the actual build and overall design of the glove. And the first thing I want to do, I usually start out with the outer shell, but I want to talk about the design of the glove first and why it's a little bit different from most MMA sparring gloves that you're going to see. Because most MMA sparring gloves are the big, rounded, puffy padding, or even like some brands like Sanibel and Engage kind of copy each other a little bit, have more of that flatter curve, but it's still really rounded padding. Whereas this case, you can see that we have more of a flat curve. You can see it straight, and then it kind of flattens out a little bit here, and then it has that overly pronounced cupping, similar to like Ryzen MMA fight gloves, right? And that's what I like about this glove. It has more of that boxing glove shape. Because if I take any type of boxing glove, you know, I'll take these. These are by Sabas. Oh, if I don't drop it. And you can see we kind of have the same type of curvature that you would have with most gloves. And I use a different brand just so you can kind of get an idea. But you can see that it kind of has that similar curve. This flares out a little bit more, obviously, because you're going to need to get that nice solid grip. But compared to a lot of those others, MMA, big puffy MMA sparring gloves, they're really bulky, and it doesn't really make sense to have that. It's good for knuckle protection, but for grappling and for overall just natural fists, it's not really making that much sense. And also, I did not mean for this to stand up straight the way it is. That's just awesome. So kudos to these gloves for being cooperative with me. The other cool thing about this glove is, like a lot of other MMA gloves, it has a really nice 4 separate part design. What I mean by that is you have that door hinge style knocking, yeah, I'm thinking of a door. You're going to knock on the door. Door hinge style knuckle here. And that just allows freedom and mobility for your hand to open and close like that. Easily have freedom with your fingers. Then you have the wrist support here. Then you can see what I call the butterfly flap. Basically, you can see kind of comes out kind of like a butterfly flying. That's so your thumb is more independent and the wrist strap is more independent. And then you also have the piece right here with the buckle. So the glove is actually divided into 4 separate parts, so your hand has more freedom of mobility. So it's really smart for this glove to do that. So your hand is able to be in a more natural fist position, be able to grapple properly. That way, when you move, it's more independent like your finger, like your hand. So I can move my fingers independently and my wrist doesn't have to move, right? If I move my wrist, my fingers don't have to move. That's the idea to a certain extent. You get what I'm trying to say. In this case, the glove is trying to replicate that so your natural hand can be in a natural position. But now we got that out of the way. You can see here on the outer shell of the glove itself, we have microfiber composite, as I mentioned earlier. Now, microfiber composite, I asked James why he went with microfiber, and a lot of MMA brands are doing that. They go with engineered leather, which is basically vinyl, or microfiber composite, which is an engineered man-made product that is trying to replicate leather to the best extent. The only thing is, he told me, is that leather is very heavy, and brands, when they use heavier leathers, can't really focus so much on the padding and the overall function of the glove. So he said a lot of Thai brands use like 3.5 millimeter leathers, which is very heavy. So I always tell you guys, the composition of the glove isn't just the padding. It's the leather, the stitching, the padding, the wrist, the Velcro. It all adds up. The interior lining adds weight to it. So he said he went with microfiber composite so he can focus more on the function and the protection of the glove. And microfiber composite, in his opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, is better for MMA, and here's why. Leather is skin, right? And you have to condition and take care of your skin. And a lot of times in boxing, it's fine because we're not really wrestling against people. We're not on mats that have sweat and blood all over it all the time, right? In boxing, you're just punching. And sure, you're going to get sweat and stuff on those, but it's very easy to just wipe that off, call it a day. Whereas in leather, if I'm twisting and grinding it, it'll rip apart. Microfiber composite is man-made to be very flexible and breathable, and you can see we got a lot to pull off this, so the stitching will catch really well too. But you have a very similar feel to leather, only it's a little bit lighter, very stretchy and breathable. And watch, trying to bite it, and it's not going anywhere, right? That's the idea. When you have a good quality material, nothing's going to really ruin it. That's the idea behind microfiber composite. It's very easy to breathe, very easy to clean too. And unlike leather, I don't have to treat it all the time. So I can just take a Lysol disinfectant wipe it off, and I'm good to go. Very easy to maintain microfiber composite. And again, it's lighter, so he's able to focus on the padding. The only thing I will say is that the black parts feel like the microfiber composite, but the gold parts feel like more like a stiff vinyl, which is a good thing. Stiff vinyl usually is a little bit more of a higher quality. It definitely feels more like a leather than it does plastic vinyl, or like a polyurethane sheet is the way I would word it. But it definitely feels a lot smoother than the microfiber composite that you have on the actual punch surface. You have that on the thumb and the finger guards. Feels more like that vinyl that you get with a lot of other gloves. But that's the idea for me, and a lot of gloves do that, like Combat Sports has leather at the top, but it has vinyl everywhere else. Very common, but the punch surface itself and the back of the wrist here is actually the microfiber composite. And a lot of sports are going that route, like basketball is primarily made out of that now. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into the padding of the glove now and talk about why this is a little bit different, again, than most MMA sparring gloves out there. They use an IMF Tech foam padding or injected molded foam. One solid thing, they inject it with a type of gel, keeps it one solid piece. The only thing is it can be very hard and rigid, and it doesn't really break in that great. And once the glove starts to break apart, the rest of the padding starts to break apart. Whereas we have open cell foam that is on the inside here, similar to a lot of other boxing gloves out there. So instead of having that one big rounded piece, we actually have layered foam, basically, that you would have in your standard boxing gloves like Winning or Reyes and stuff like that. In this case, Japanese style boxing gloves use more of an open cell foam for knuckle protection, and you have that here, and it's very soft padding, and it breathes very easily. You can hear it. Actually, the air coming in and out of the glove, right? And that's because of the open cell tendencies. When we go ahead and squeeze it this way, you can see that's actually how it's hugging your knuckles, and you can see it's a little bit firmer in the center now. So when I punch, right, that padding basically lines up here, and I don't feel anything on my knuckles like that. I can't push in and really feel I know they're there just because of the outlines, right? But I don't really feel any solid impact as far as damaging my hand goes. And that's the nice part about this padding. Whereas IMF Tech foam really just kind of creates distance between your knuckles and the target. It doesn't often mean that there's just so much protection because the padding is great. It just means that there's distance between you and your punching. Whereas this is actually good foam that's protecting your knuckles. And you have that all the way throughout. And the tip of the fingers too, all the way to the back of the hand until you get to the wrist bar that you have down here. Now, a cool part about the wrist bar is if I open this up, it's actually one solid piece. It goes from the back of the wrist all the way down, and that just works as a brace basically. This is a stiffer EVA foam. If I were to guess, that's what it is. It's still pretty soft compared to some other rigid foams that you'll get in the back of gloves, but that's great because what it does is it hugs around your hand like this, and you can see how it kind of hugs that way. That way it braces your wrist, keeps everything in one place, adds the right amount of compression to the back of your wrist, and when you punch, it stops all the shock. So it absorbs all the shock and stops it from getting down to your hand, and your bones pop upwards this way. They don't pop outward, they pop upwards. So the wrist hugs here, so that way it puts that pressure down, keeping everything in place. So you have really nice wrist support on the back here, which is always good. Then, of course, you have the separate pieces of the glove. Of course, we have that door hinge style knuckle here, and then the wrist is separate. So when you punch, everything is lined up perfectly. On top of that, when we go into the palm of the glove, the finger guards are actually really, really well designed. So unlike a lot of gloves that have all uniformed, and when you move one finger, the rest have to move with it, these are uniformed, but they have centers or space in the centers, as you can see here, that allow them to be independent of themselves, which is awesome. And like I said, Ryzen MMA fight gloves do that really well. Instead of having like the old school Pride ones with individual finger spots and your fingers would slip out, your fingers will not slip out with this, and you still have independence and mobility with your hands. And on top of it, there's plenty of room for your hands to kind of come out and still grab easily. Now, I have shorter fingers, so the one thing that always happens with me, my pinkies are kind of shaped weird, is that my pinkies kind of like curve inward. And that's just my anatomy. That's not any glove's fault. But in this case, you can see I can get that nice good grip and then still open and have independence. So if I want to move each finger by itself, it's very easy to do. And then if I want to move them together, even easier. So that's awesome. And then the finger guard for the thumb also has some stiff EVA foam that you have like on the back of the wrist. It's the same exact foam that you have here on the thumb, and that's just to protect your thumb joints. Happens a lot actually if, say, like you're going for an overhand into a single leg, right? Some people will cast that part of their hand. They call it a casting punch for a reason. We're casting a fishing line down into there. Maybe we're grabbing that single leg and stuff. And it just happens. You'll catch the side of your hand every now and again. So you have that padding there just to keep you safe for training. The wrist strap, again, a very good, solid wrist strap, and it's attached right to the end of the glove here, keeping it nice and uniform. And it's not too thick either to where the Velcro will pop off. The Velcro is super strong, sticks to the actual hook and loop strap very, very easily, and it does not fly off at all. Like I'm doing this, and it doesn't fly off at all, which is awesome. But one thing that makes this glove stand out really well is actually right here, that buckle. And if you've watched any of my reviews, you know that sometimes gloves will have that that buckle here that's made out of metal. The issue with metal is that it will pop out of the stitching, and sometimes the metal will rust and people have to yank it out entirely. And then it kind of makes it a weird loop that doesn't work so well. What they did is they actually made it rubber, and it's a very stiff rubber patch that you have on the inside here. What's awesome is it's flexible and it won't pop out of the actual stitching. It actually moves and conforms with the stitching, which is awesome. And you can see how that works. So when you put the glove on, it actually, and I'll show you that in a second too. I want to talk about the interior lining for a second, but just so you can see the wrist strap work the way it's supposed to, if I can get it. Oh my goodness. But when you're here, watch how the glove pulls in cinches now instead of actually like staying in one place and rigid because it's made out of solid metal, right? You don't want that when it comes to a pair of gloves. Now, when we talk about the interior lining, really nice poly cotton interior lining, and it is very moisture resistant, moisture wicking, does not hold moisture that well, which is a good thing, right? And what I mean by that is it does not soak up all the sweat. I've not felt the glove get any heavier from use of sweat and stuff, and that happens a lot. You'll have a pair of gloves, you first get them, they feel light, then after a couple months, you notice they're slightly heavier because they soak sweat. They get all that bacteria and stuff in there. Actually very antimicrobial in turn because moisture does not live so well on this product, which is awesome. So it's very easy to dry these out. Very rarely do I even really need to put them on my glove purifier. I literally just take it out of my bag, and about 20 minutes later, they're completely dry. They never really soak so bad where they feel gross and stuff. But always don't leave stuff in your bag. It's just not the right thing to do. So very, very comfortable, soft, plush interior lining that we have here. The fit and feel, my hand slides in perfectly. And again, really awesome wrist support because you have that nice foam backing here. Maybe the one thing I wish it did is the wrist strap maybe fell up a little bit higher, but I haven't really noticed anything. I like having that cinched up feel right on my wrist bone, but I have not once felt any discomfort in my wrist with these gloves and my knuckles with these gloves. Everything feels really good. I get solid grips with these, whether it be palm to palm, S grip. I'm actually really good with these gloves, even with that overhang. Even able to get my favorite split finger grip, which is where you take your thumb and put it in between your pointer and middle fingers, you know, old school wrestling grip. And that's what we have here. I'm able to get that really well with these gloves actually, and it slips underneath the neck, underneath for underhooks, overhooks, anything you can think of. Heel hooks are really easy to grab in these toe holds. Really good grips, really good conforms to the hand. It doesn't really feel like a glove's on my hand. It feels like it's just an extension of my hand with some extra padding is basically the idea. But I know that's a long start to the beginning of the video. I always give you everything I can. But with that said, let's go ahead and go into the bag work and the views so you can see them in action. Then we'll come back with my final thoughts. When it comes to hitting the bags and pads with these gloves, the first thing you're going to notice is they have that boxing glove style of wrist support and knuckle padding, and that is absolutely awesome. But they are light as a feather, and the grips are outstanding for clinch, for grappling, anything you can think of. The balance of the glove is what screams to me too. They don't feel heavy towards the top or towards the bottom. Everything is one solid unit, and it just feels like an extension of your hand. And as you can see here, I am trying to break my hands in these gloves, and it's just not possible to do so. These gloves are absolutely protective. They are awesome for bags and pads, and overall, I love using them. So as you can see here, you got that awesome gold crown, and you can see you got awesome palm-to-palm grip. S grips are actually really solid on these gloves. I like my split finger grip, butterfly grip, getting underneath the neck, over the arms, under the arms is awesome. But again, we go to that look of these gloves. That crown just pops out to you and screams royalty. I always call black and gold the dark royal colors. As you can see, your fingers can still flare out like with any MMA glove, but you get awesome solid grips. The gloves look great, and overall, I really think your sparring partners are going to say that is a sharp pair of gloves, and they are going to enjoy getting hit in the face by these bad boys. Alright folks, my final verdict here for the Power MMA Sparring Gloves by Playerz Boxing is I've absolutely loved these gloves. I think the new design change has been very welcoming and has given me a new training experience, which is always good in my book, especially when that new training experience is in the positive direction. And I'd never really like to say things like that at the beginning of the video like I did this time, but I had to be honest that these have become one of my favorite pairs of MMA gloves I've ever trained in, and if they hold up the way I'm pretty sure they're going to, they will probably take take my #1 spot. They're in my top 5 easily already. Just the comfort, the fit, the feel, the way they operate, how versatile they are. Everything about the glove is absolutely awesome, and I've loved using these. And it's not just my mind that's being changed on this. And I know what you're thinking probably throughout the video. I use 2 names a lot. That was Tom Aspinall and Ian Machado Gary that train in these gloves. And you're probably thinking, well, they're sponsored by Playerz Boxing. I confirmed with the owner of Playerz Boxing, they are not. They reached out and asked to try these gloves. And that's the coolest part about these gloves for me, is that you have guys that are sponsored by all these big brands that are using these gloves. And if you don't believe me, Ian Machado Gary, go on his Instagram page and see that there's a couple training videos that he's using these gloves, and they had to blur the logo out because he's sponsored, I believe, by Venom. ESPN did something with Tom Aspinall recently, or it might have been TNT Sports or whatever it is across the pond. And basically, he had to tape over the logo because, again, UFC stuff, you're going to be using Venom stuff. In this case, he taped over it because he wants to train in that. Happens a lot in boxing. One of my favorite brands, Hit and Move, you know, Daniel Dubois, Gervonta Tank Davis, Deontay Wilder use different brands, Everlast Grant, and Fly, and they have to tape their Hit and Move gloves because, you know, they have a sponsorship deal. But, guys, if fighters want to train in what they want to train in, they're going to train in it, no matter what they're going to do. So it's not just my mind that's changed by it. Again, Tom Aspinall, Ian Machado Gary literally have to tape over their stuff so they can use these gloves. So that's absolutely awesome. Now, going into things that I like about the glove, right? Starting with the price point. Compared to a lot of other MMA gloves out there, they are competitively and fairly priced for me. And what I mean by that is $100, okay? And that might seem like a lot compared to some other gloves out there. Obviously, if you're a beginner, you're probably going to get something a little bit more budget friendly because you're not sure if you're going to do it. Whatever it might be, you want something that works. But if you know you're going to do it for a while, I always tell you to invest. And for me, $100 is very, very fairly priced for a professional pair of MMA gloves. Standable Gold Strikes go for about that much. They're about $100 to $110. Fairtex has some gloves that go for 80 to 100 that are MMA gloves. The Combat Sports Max Strike that I call reliable. They go for 60 to 70, but in this case, $100 for what you get is very, very fair, in my opinion. Very fair, right on the money. I would say invest into your hands, invest into your training, get a good pair of gloves if you know you're going to be doing it for a while. And on top of it, they are a professional pair of gloves, but they work for professionals, amateurs, beginners, casual users. Even if you're just hitting the bags, I think these gloves protect your hands enough to be used strictly for bag work and pads, because that's really all I could do with them when I first got them, because I wasn't cleared to really train quite yet with my knee. Now, in this case too, talking about the things I like about it is that the overall shape and composition of the glove changes the way that you're going to train a little bit in a good way, and that it's going to be a lot more natural. When you have the big, rounded, puffy MMA sparring gloves, really all it's doing is just changing or creating a lot of distance between your knuckles and the surface that you're punching. In this case, they are curved like a boxing glove, and the padding is made out of the same padding that you would have with boxing gloves. So it protects your hands because that's how it was designed to go. That natural curve that you have here, unlike other MMA big puffy gloves too, allows you to grapple a lot easier. The grips you're able to get in these gloves, the way that it fits on and feels, right? I'm able to get strong grips. I'm able to punch naturally and not feel any shock going down from my knuckles down to my wrist. That's the nice part about these gloves that I've absolutely loved so far when it comes to using these. So the protective qualities are great. You also have that big rigid piece of foam on the back of the glove that keeps your wrist in a nice natural fist position and also stops your wrist from getting any breaks or sprains, whatever it might be. So that's always a really good positive outlook when you have a glove like this. On top of it, if you are not into really staying on top of your gear and maintaining it, very easy to clean and maintain these gloves. For one, the interior lining is always the biggest kryptonite for me when it comes to people that don't take care of their stuff, because once the interior lining starts to soak and bleed through into the padding, the glove's screwed. And when the glove's screwed, you can't fix it. In this case, you can fix it very easily because it's very moisture wicking. The interior lining's very easy to dry out. You take it out of your bag for 25 minutes to a half hour and it's very dry. And if it's extra, you know, maybe you sweat a little bit more that day, leave it out for a little bit longer overnight and you're good to go. I always recommend though, just spray it with a disinfectant spray or use a disinfecting wipe, and that will definitely fix the type of smell and odor that you'll get with this. But for me, It still smells brand new because I take care of my products and I just let them air out. And if you have a boot dryer or a glove purifier, put it on there and it'll take care of it by itself too. But overall, interior lining, very easy to maintain. The outer shell is made of that microfiber composite. The same way you would clean your basketball, if you ever do that, the same way you would clean these. Disinfectant wipe and you're good to go. Especially that vinyl that you have here on the back, very easy to clean, does not peel off. I've not had one thing peel off of these. Nothing's creased or frayed in a bad way. Overall, after 4 months of hard use, they look brand new still, and there's no stitching popping out anywhere either. But again, I take very good care of my gear, so make sure you stay on top of it. Clean them like weekly or every 2 weeks, depending on how bad they are. And the gloves will take care of you so long as you take care of them. So they're very easy to clean. They protect you very well. They're very versatile. Like I said, very good protection for hitting the bags. Great for sparring. I've hit my sparring partners pretty hard with these, and they tell me it's no different from a lot of the other bigger, puffier MMA sparring gloves. One teammate actually said it felt more pillow-like getting hit by these. And you would think, because it's a flatter surface, maybe you would feel more of an impact, but no. That's the way the glove was designed. The padding's soft enough to keep me protected and keep you protected as well, which is always a great thing in my book. So that's awesome. They're very safe, and the grappling's excellent. I'm able to get every grip that I want, from S grip, Gable palm-to-palm grip, bar grip or butterfly grip, whatever you like to call it. I like split finger grip a lot. I'm able to get that split finger grip very easily in these gloves. Great for clinch work, great for upper body wrestling, anything you can think of, getting underhooks, under the neck, over the neck, heel hook positions or knee bar positions, getting through the legs, whatever it is you need. These gloves are there for you. So that's absolutely awesome that they're very versatile for striking and grappling. So they win in that department. Now, some things that I don't like about the glove, if I'm honest, they're not much out there, but if I had to find something, I guess maybe I would like the wrist strap to be a little bit higher. I always like it when it cinches up right on my wrist bone, but you have that really nice wrist padding on the back here. The only thing I'm going to say about that is personal preference. So I don't knock any points off for it in that department, right? Because that's just a personal preference. But for me, the glove's perfect the way it is, so I guess maybe changing it that way would do it more of a disservice than it would help it. So in that case, I don't really have much to complain about it. The only thing I would say is that if you do not like having a smaller profile MMA sparring glove, as far as like that flatter composition, and you prefer the big puffy MMA sparring gloves, and your gym only wants the big puffy MMA sparring gloves, and yes, there are some gyms that say that. I've been in a couple of them that say no, only the big puffy rounded ones. That might happen. Okay, it might, but are people going to find ways to complain about anything? Yeah. I mean, there are people that fight or that spar in MMA fight gloves, for God's sake, But in this case, I think this is overall perfect glove for you. I think maybe if you want the bigger padding, if you have like brittle hands, it has very good knuckle padding. I don't feel my knuckles through this padding at all, and I usually train without wraps when it comes to MMA gloves. It's just my personal preference, and I've never once had my knuckles just, get damaged, hurt. I've never really felt that. It feels like a nice solid puncher's feel, but it also has that pillow quality to it in that I don't feel like anything is like damaging my knuckles, my wrist, or anything like that. So that's kind of what I have to say, is that if you have brittle hands and you need that extra padding, don't get these. They have the Spartech, which I think is great, or those are, there's the Gold Strikes you can get, or the Combat Sports Max Strike that I talk about. But in this case, I would say go with these gloves if you're looking for a newer training experience. So with that said, what are my actual final takes on these gloves? My final rating for these gloves, I would have to give them easily a solid 10 out of 10. And I put them in my S tier for an excellent glove. I think everything about the glove that I just talked about speaks for itself. It protects you. It crosses all the boxes. They look cool on top of it, which is always good. Great for sparring, great for grappling, great for bag work, great for this, great for that. They just check everything, and it's a new training experience as well. And I think a lot of gloves, would not shock me over time, are going to start gravitating towards this design and try to start and steal this design. That's what happens every time. But for me, the first person to really innovate it this way is Playerz Boxing, and I have really enjoyed these gloves. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching this review. I know I'm really long-winded and I talk a lot about these things, but I want you to be armed with every amount of knowledge if you are to go and try and purchase these gloves. And of course, if there was anything I talked about that made these gloves not for you, that's fine. Check out the other reviews I have on my channel, or feel free to comment below and ask me about gloves that I think might work for you off of what you tell me. With that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hit the the like and subscribe button and jab that notification bell. Stole that from Fit the Box for a second. But hit that notification bell so you can see more reviews like this in the future. And of course, comment below what you want to see reviewed next. Shin guard reviews are coming very soon. That's a very popular request lately. And I appreciate you all for getting us to 10.5 thousand subscribers already. We are so close to 11,000, which is absolutely crazy. I appreciate it all. Follow me on my social media pages. I keep up with Instagram just about every day, and I'm trying to get back to people a lot better than I used to. But I appreciate all of your output and your support towards me and the channel. With that said, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode, and as always, I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day, everybody.